I sat in my car outside the house that raised me, a pristine two-story in Magnolia, Seattle. White roses lined the porch rail. The windows gleamed like they'd been polished by guilt. Inside, I knew exactly what waited: a bowl of fresh-cut orchids on the table, linen napkins folded in that triangle Vivian swore was more graceful than a square. Perfection, curated like an exhibit. She called it a home. I called it a museum of her pride. I used to confuse numbness for peace. Silence for love. Then Caleb showed up, messy hair, worn denim, too honest, and suddenly, the windows I didn't know were sealed cracked open. He made space for air. That morning, over oatmeal and herbal tea, she eyed my sundress like it was a stain. "You always wear such casual things," she said, sipping without looking up. "It's spring, Mom. And weddings," she added, "require a certain dignity. Especially when you're marrying someone untraditional." "Caleb's kind," I said. She smiled. "So was your father. Kindness doesn't keep a household." The way she said your father like he was a faded accessory. I pushed my spoon into the bowl until oatmeal spilled over the edge. She didn't flinch. "And loyalty," she murmured. "That's what keeps things whole." I stared at her then, the woman who'd built a life out of appearances. My mother, Vivian Harrow, queen of veiled threats and crisp tablecloths. After breakfast, I found the note. It was folded into the mail, no envelope. Just 4 typed lines on creamy stationery. Ask Lydia why she was really in therapy. Ask what happened when she was 17. My stomach flipped. Caleb had shown me an identical note 2 days earlier, asking, should I be worried? I had laughed, brushed it off. But the handwriting. The slight slant on the H, the perfect loop on the Y. I hadn't seen it in 10 years, but I knew it. She hadn't changed. My phone buzzed. "Caleb, we'll talk after work." The word sent a chill through my ribs. I knew that tone. Careful. Measured. Suspicious. It wasn't just a note. It was her move. The way she always moved, silent and smiling. High school prom. Ryan Marks. A sudden canceled date after his mom received a concerned call about my emotional volatility. I cried in the bathroom all night. Vivian brought me tea and said, some people just aren't meant to handle passion. And here she was again. Casually mentioning to Caleb how fast things were moving. "You know how fragile Lydia can be," she probably said, touching his arm lightly. Just enough to plant doubt. Never enough to accuse. Audience moment: have you ever had someone smile while cutting you down behind your back? Share your story in the comments. I needed air. I climbed to the attic, the one place in this house untouched by Vivian's polish. Dust. Old boxes. A draft that smelled like memory. I was looking for photos. Caleb and I were making a slideshow for the rehearsal dinner. A laugh here. A childhood snap there. But inside a misfiled envelope was something else. A yellowed clipping: local man dies by suicide. My father's name. Harold Harrow. But she had always said heart attack. A sudden pain in the night. Quiet. Tragic. The article said otherwise. Pills. A note. Years of mental strain. The room swayed. My knees buckled. I sat among boxes labeled Christmas and winter linens and tried to breathe. I remembered being 8. Asking why we didn't talk about Daddy anymore. She'd gone cold. We do not revisit pain. I had obeyed. But this wasn't pain. It was betrayal. Was anything she ever told me real? I slid the envelope back. Closed the box. Locked the attic. Downstairs, I made dinner. Lasagna. Caleb's favorite. I grated cheese with a focus that bordered on manic. When he arrived, he kissed my cheek too quickly. Sat down quietly. He watched me. I felt him watching. Not lovingly. Calculating. Is there anything you haven't told me? He asked. I put the knife down. What did she say? He hesitated. That pause was a scream. She mentioned episodes. That you struggled once. That she was worried. She lied. She said there were files. There's a fake birth certificate in this house, Caleb. He blinked. I pushed the lasagna away. She's playing you. He rubbed his temple. I just want the truth, Lydia. You want her version? I want yours. I walked away before the sob reached my throat. She was infecting my love the way she infected my childhood. Half an hour later, my phone lit up. Caleb, I think we need some space before the wedding. Space. That's what abusers love most. Distance between their victims and their support. That night, I went to my childhood room. The one with white curtains and no fingerprints. I pulled at the window, it stuck. Rusted shut from years of disuse. The blinds were still down. They hadn't been lifted since my father's funeral. I walked through the living room, turned off the harsh white lights. Opened one blind. Light spilled in. Warm. Untamed. It's not just her house I need to leave, I whispered. It's the version of myself she built. Audience question, what's one part of yourself you've kept locked away because someone else said it didn't belong? She wanted to rewrite my past. Now, I was going to rewrite my future. The boutique was filled with whispers of chiffon and overpriced lace. Margot trailed behind me, carrying lattes and trying to stay positive. I needed her optimism more than I admitted. This is it, I told her, stepping into the fitting room. No more edits. Just a hem and we're good. But the moment I stepped into the dress, my breath caught, not because of beauty, but betrayal. The neckline was higher. The sleeves, added. The waist, once soft and flowing, was now structured and tight. Not mine. Not me. I didn't authorize these changes, I said, stepping out stiffly. The seamstress glanced nervously toward the door. Your mother, she called. Said you'd changed your mind. And as if summoned by the spell of control, Vivian appeared, immaculate in cream, smile sharp as glass. Oh, darling, there you are, she sang. You looked so exposed in the original design. This is far more elegant. I stared at her. You went behind my back. I only wanted you to look like a hero, not a mistake. Her whisper echoed like a slap. I smiled, because we were in public. Because that's what she trained me to do. But inside, something cracked. In the dressing room, I leaned in close. You touch one more thing, just one, and I will walk down that aisle in a trash bag just to spite you. She blinked, then laughed like I was being dramatic. But I saw it, the twitch in her jaw. Audience question, has someone ever helped you just to control you? How did you take your power back? Back home, I noticed something odd. My emails to Caleb were marked as read. But I hadn't opened them yet. I asked Caleb if he'd forwarded anything to my mother. He looked confused, hurt even. No, he said. Why would I do that? Still, a knot tightened in my gut. I tried logging into my account again. The password was wrong. Then I tried my old high school password. It worked. Vivian. It was her signature move, access before apology. I spent the next 2 hours changing every password. Banking. Work. Personal. Deleted our shared calendar. Cancelled the florist Zoom. I sat on the kitchen floor, laptop in lap, and thought, how many corners of my life has she hollowed out while pretending to protect me? A call came in. Unknown number. I answered. Lydia? It's Donna. Donna Pierce. I blinked. Vivian's ex-housekeeper. Her voice was a whisper, like someone was listening. She's done this before. To another girl. What girl? I asked. She used to visit when you were younger. Letters came in the mail. She intercepted them. I closed my eyes. A pen pal. Jordan. One summer. He vanished without a word. She told him you weren't interested, Donna said. She burned his letters. Rage bloomed, slow and hot. My whole chest felt like a bruise. She's hiding more than you know, Donna whispered. And she's not done. Then she hung up. Audience moment. What would you do if someone told you your parent deliberately erased a part of your life? That night, I sat across from Caleb, the space between us wider than our couch. Do you think I'm unstable? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. She's concerned, he said. About what? That I think for myself? She said you have history. I stared. Do you trust me? I asked. Or are you just waiting for a reason not to? He looked down. I don't know anymore. I grabbed my coat and left. She cracked us. Like she always cracked the things I love. When I returned, something was slipped under my door, a folder. Inside, printed emails between me and Caleb. Highlighted. Annotated. Notes in the margins. Her handwriting. She wasn't just invading. She was dissecting me. The next morning, I walked into the boutique alone. I want the original design, I told the seamstress. Undo everything. She hesitated. I handed her a red silk ribbon. Sew this into the hem. No one else needs to see it. It's for me. A reminder. Sometimes, you don't cut the cord. You hide it inside you. So you never forget what you escaped. Audience reflection. Have you ever resisted someone not with a fight, but by reclaiming something silent and personal? She didn't just want me alone. She wanted me dismantled. One stitch at a time. Vivian's voicemail was calm, too calm. Lunch, Lydia. Just us. Let's not end things in bitterness. Bitterness was her perfume. I didn't respond right away. I let the silence stretch until my phone buzzed again, this time from Caleb. Your mom asked me to meet too. Separately. Said she had something to say. My stomach turned. Don't go, I texted back. I just want to hear her out. He would regret that. Margot caught my hesitation as I paced in the kitchen. She's baiting you, she warned. You know that, right? I nodded, already slipping my phone into my purse. Record everything, Margot added. She stages these moments. Don't let her rewrite this one. Have you ever been invited to a peace talk that felt more like a performance? And still walked in? Caleb arrived first. Vivian greeted him with warm tea and a sad smile. She always began her destruction gently. There's something you deserve to know, she said, voice low. Lydia isn't my biological daughter. He blinked. I what? She's always known, she added quickly. She plays the victim, it's a pattern. Sympathy has always been her currency. Caleb sat still, silent. The door chimed. I stepped in, just as my name dropped from her lips. Vivian looked up, not surprised. She never was. I stood behind Caleb, unsure what I just heard, but sure it was poison. Why are you doing this? I asked. She turned, elegance personified, but her eyes were stone. Because you don't belong in this family. And I won't let you ruin another man's life with your games. Would you speak up when someone dismantles your truth in front of someone you love, or walk away forever? Caleb and I didn't speak until later. Alone. Did you know? He asked softly. No, I whispered. She never told me. Then show me something. Anything. Your birth certificate. I rushed home. Opened the safe. Pulled out the file I hadn't looked at in years. There it was, my name, Lydia Harrow. Mother, Vivian Harrow. Except the font was wrong. The seal was faded. And the paper was too new. She didn't just lie. She rewrote my existence. Margot came over. I showed her the certificate. She forged this, she said immediately. You need to check public records. What if I don't want to know? I asked, voice cracking. What if the truth makes it worse? Margot didn't flinch. Then she wins. I filed the request the next day. The archive office smelled like dust and judgment. The clerk frowned at his screen. Your file number doesn't match any Lydia Harrow born in Washington. This number is registered to Rebecca Ellis. The world tilted. Vivian had buried me under someone else's name. Driving home, I remembered something. One night when I was 15, I heard Vivian yelling. We can't let that woman come back, she said. Victor, her husband, had replied something muffled. I never knew what it meant. But now it meant everything. Who was that woman? Why was she a threat? If finding the truth means tearing apart every lie you've lived, do you still dig? Later that night, Caleb came by. He stood at my doorway, hands in his pockets. I don't know what to think, he said. I need space. He wasn't choosing her. He was choosing comfort. And comfort has always been her sharpest weapon. I watched him walk away, then turned to my reflection. My face. My name. My unknown story. She could bury the truth. She could burn the evidence. But she couldn't erase the fire inside me. I opened the safe again. Pulled the forged certificate. Lit a match. The flame curled the edges like a question being answered. She wanted me to doubt who I was. Instead, she reminded me who I'll never be, her. The morning after the cafe felt hollow. My phone buzzed with missed calls from Caleb, 6, maybe 7, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. Every vibration felt like another echo of her voice saying, "She's not my daughter." The audio recording from that day should have been proof, but when I played it back, half of it was missing. The app cut off right before she said the words. A digital silence, perfectly timed. I stared at the blank waveform on the screen and whispered, "She deleted me twice, once in life, once in evidence." Margot came over with a folder in her hands and pity in her eyes. "You need to sign these," she said. "Requests for document retrieval. Birth records, estate files, anything tied to your name." I nodded mechanically, signing where she pointed. I felt like a ghost watching someone else's life crumble. That afternoon, my phone pinged again, group chats filled with whispers. Vivian's friends were circulating stories. "Lydia's unstable, poor Vivian has been through so much." They were rewriting my story before I could even speak. Have you ever watched someone reshape your life like wet clay while you're still standing there, breathing? At Margot's office, the air smelled like toner and desperation. She closed the blinds and slid another document across the desk. "She's filed a petition for emotional distress damages," Margot said. "She's accusing you of harassment. And your brother's on her witness list." I laughed, a bitter sound. "Of course he is." As if summoned, my phone lit up. "Victor Harrow, you've gone too far. Mom's health is fragile. Stop this or I'll step in." Margot hesitated. "There's more." Inside the envelope, my eyes caught a familiar signature, mine. Dated 2 years ago. A transfer form giving Vivian full control over my trust fund. I never signed it. "She didn't just own the house," I said, voice shaking. "She owned my name." Margot leaned forward. "Then take it back. File your own claim. Stop playing defense." "But how do you fight someone who's already rewritten the rules, and the truth? Have you ever faced a liar so powerful the law itself bends around them?" That night, I drove back to her house. The place still smelled like lilies and control. The study door, once always locked, was left slightly open. She was careless for the first time. Or maybe overconfident. Inside, everything was immaculate except one thing, a dusty box labeled adoption records. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside were letters, newspaper clippings, and a stack of envelopes addressed to me. One stood out. Lydia Grayson, not Harrow. Each envelope had been opened, read, then resealed. Postmarks dating back years. The handwriting delicate, maternal. I pulled one letter from its sleeve. "I never stopped looking for you. Love, Mom." The word hit like a bruise. My knees gave out. The letters scattered like feathers around me. A memory surfaced, Vivian in the kitchen, years ago, tearing a letter in half while I watched. "Some things are better left unknown," she'd said. "Would you open a letter that could undo everything you thought you knew about who you are?" I didn't need to answer. I already had. The next morning, I went to confront Victor. He looked exhausted, maybe guilty. "You were too fragile," he said flatly. "Mom was protecting you." Protecting me from what, my own life? Before he could answer, she entered. Vivian. Perfect hair, calm eyes, serpent smile. "You can't handle the truth even now," she said. "Who is Eleanor Grayson?" I demanded. Her expression cracked, just slightly. "That woman gave you up," she hissed. "I saved you." The slap came fast, sharp, precise. The kind of gesture meant to end a conversation. But I didn't cry. I just looked at her and said, saving someone isn't the same as owning them. Her hand trembled. Mine didn't. For the first time in my life, she looked small. I left without slamming the door. Quiet was louder. Back at Margot's office, I signed the paperwork to open a formal investigation. Once we start, there's no turning back, Margot warned. There's nothing left to turn back to, I said. When she left, I unfolded one of the unopened letters. The ink had bled slightly with age, but the words were still clear. I folded it again and slipped it into my journal, a heartbeat waiting to be heard. Would you choose truth if it meant destroying everything familiar? I would. The only way to find myself was to destroy the woman who built me from lies. I drove away from Magnolia just after dawn in a silence so thick I could hear the engine hum beneath my skin. Ashland, Oregon, lay ahead, a town small enough to hear your secrets bounce off its brick walls. My destination, a cafe where I had never sat and a mother I had never known. Eleanor Grayson was waiting on the patio, coffee cup in hand, the rising sun painting her hair gold. The moment I stepped off the curb, fear and longing tangled inside me like barbed wire. But her eyes were gentle. You don't owe me explanation, she said softly. But I felt I did. More than I ever owed anyone. Inside that cafe, we sat facing each other. She showed me stacks of greeting cards I'd never received, letters marked return to sender in my childhood name. She told me I had 2 half-brothers, tall shadows in photos, smiling like they belonged somewhere I didn't. My heart opened in a place I thought was broken forever. For the first time I was wanted. Not for appearances. Not for perfection. Just for me. Back in Seattle, the avalanche began. A social media post by Vivian Harrow crowned the moment. My daughter rejects us for a stranger she calls her real mother. Screenshots were sent to me in the middle of that sunny afternoon in Oregon. Caleb called. I saw it. I'm sorry. I sat with Eleanor on the porch of the house where she lived now and for the first time felt the sting of being paraded like merchandise. That night I returned to the Harrow mansion for a confrontation I never intended to hide from. Vivian stood in the foyer, framed by portraits of a family that never really existed. I pulled the VHS tape from my bag, proof of the forged birth certificate, the letters, the interviews Margot helped me obtain. The remote clicked. Images flickered across the screen. Vivian's expression froze when the camera caught her voice. Some things are better left unknown. Victor Harrow stood opposite her, powerless for once. She screamed, "The woman you call mother gave you up. I made you." Her slap landed like a verdict. My cheek burned, but I didn't fall. Instead I said, "You take my body, you twist my name, you control my world, but you never owned my soul." On my way out, I left the brass key to the house on the silver tray in the entryway. I took a small music box, once her gift, now my emblem of release. The door closed quietly behind me, its click louder than any shout. I drove home toward Ashland the next morning. Dawn found me on the road, sunlight in the rearview mirror, hope in the windshield. I thumbed through the letters Eleanor gave me and paused at one written for the child I used to be. You will know your mother by her choices, not by someone else's fear. Have you ever had to choose between the family you were given and the one you choose? I chose truth. The air in Magnolia smelled like wet cedar and cold forgiveness. The Harrow mansion stood in front of me, still and heavy under the early morning fog. For decades, I had woken up to that house. Today, I was waking it up. The blinds were drawn, the windows clouded with years of secrets. I could still hear her voice echoing in my head, sharp, rehearsed, final. You'll never walk away from a Harrow legacy. But I had already walked. I looked down at the photo in my hand, taken during the dinner confrontation, the night she turned my life into her performance. Her face was frozen mid-sentence, Caleb's caught between loyalty and disbelief. The photo felt like both evidence and eulogy. My phone buzzed. Caleb. I'll meet you at the garden gate at 9. For the first time in months, I breathed without shaking. Have you ever opened the door to your past and realized you're finally the one choosing to walk through it? I stepped over the threshold. The floorboards groaned like they recognized me. The house smelled the same, lemon polish and denial. But I didn't pause this time. I followed the sound of quiet conversation into the dining room. They were waiting, Vivian at the head of the table, Victor beside her, hands folded in practiced grief. Caleb stood at the corner, uncertain but present. Sit, Vivian said, like I was still her obedient child. I sat instead across from her, calm, almost smiling. You tried to break my wedding, I said softly, but you nearly broke me instead. I came here to end that. She didn't flinch. You'll never walk away from a Harrow legacy. I already have, I said. Then I pressed play. The small TV screen flickered, the VHS Margot had helped me recover. Images appeared, my infancy, Eleanor's letters, recordings Vivian had hidden. Her own handwriting, her own lies, projected across the room. Caleb looked stunned. Victor's jaw tightened. Vivian reached for the remote, but I held her gaze. Don't, I warned. You've had your stage. Now it's my turn. The silence was deep. Even the house seemed to hold its breath. I forgive you, I said finally, my voice steady. Not for you, but for me. Because you don't get to decide who I am anymore. Would you recognize the sound of peace if it came dressed as defiance? Outside, the light had shifted. The fog had thinned into gold. Eleanor waited in the garden. She looked smaller than I remembered from the photos, gentler. Her hands trembled slightly as she touched my arm. This is your story now, she whispered. I nodded, feeling the weight lift without needing words. Caleb joined us, his expression quiet but resolved. So what now? He asked. We plan the wedding, I said. Where we want. Not here. On my way out, I paused in the foyer. The old brass key to the house felt cold in my palm. I left it on the entry table beside a vase of dying lilies. Then I took the small music box Vivian once gave me, the only gift that had ever felt like mine, and slipped it into my coat pocket. Sometimes, leaving isn't running away. It's returning to yourself. Have you ever handed back the key to the cage you once lived in? Later, in the apartment filled with sunlight instead of silence, I wrote a letter to my future child. You will know your mother by her choices, not by someone else's fear. I uploaded one last photo to my social feed, a picture of the Harrow mansion with its blinds wide open. The caption read, Morning light matters. As I hit post, Eleanor walked in with coffee, Caleb beside her. The three of us stepped outside just as the first full ray of sun broke over the rooftops. Freedom isn't loud. It doesn't slam doors or shout goodbyes. It's a quiet beginning that feels like breathing for the first time. If you opened your blinds today, what would the light show you? She taught me what a mother should be. And now, I'll teach my child what one can become.